All right, folks, welcome back to Keepers of the Word. You're here with Mike and James. We
What's
put
up,
together
guys?
another great show for you today about a book that we read called Consorting with Spirits by Jason Miller. But before we get into that, James, take it away.
Make sure to follow all of our social media outlets, Twitch being our favorite. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications to stay up to date with our new content. The
Views and
views,
topics of Keepers of the Word are solely our opinions and do not reflect the opinions of any Masonic Lodge or Grand Lodge. So today, as I was saying earlier, we're talking about a book we all read, and it was a really good one. It was super dense, got straight to the point. There was, I mean, the title, Consorting with Spirits.
yes. So this
Yeah.
is Jason Miller's new book that just dropped. So how did we get this book, man? Because it just dropped, huh? So we follow, both me and Brian. We follow practices from Jason Miller. He's an amazing teacher. This is his new book, and we knew he was dropping this new book, and he was asking for podcasts to review it. So we jumped on board. He sent us the book, and hence how we got the book before it came out. So we reviewed it, and this is our review of that.
It is now actually currently available. If you search it on Amazon, I believe you can find it there.
It's everywhere.
Yeah. It's
Everywhere.
so chapter one, jumping into what is a spirit, energy. What type of energy is a spirit?
Right.
Now, there's many different definitions to what a spirit is. When we look at spirit, we can look at it as a soul, the dead, or even a god. But I think the clear definition of what that is where the work begins, right?
Well, it could mean, like, for example, what is electricity? You know what I'm saying? It can be in many forms, can do many things. We can put electricity or spirit can enter in many different things and function with different items.
I like Jason's description of it, though, being that it's collective consciousness.
Right.
Collective consciousness traveling on its own in its own way.
Well, yeah, like he states, we, like, if you think about it, we, us, ourselves, we are spirits too, you know. So
Yes, I agree with that.
So it's just it kind of gets more into that, you know, like it's here, it's there, it's everywhere, you know.
What really kind of opened my, because after I read the first chapter, I was really sunk. Okay, now I'm committed, right? And then when I got to chapter two, the modes of manifestation, different types of manifestations, and I didn't know all these. You know, you had translocation, aspecting, possession, welcome or unwelcome, controlled appearances, habitation, resonance.
Yeah, that's
I didn't know.
that's what's, sorry to cut you off. That's what's cool though, the different how he breaks those down, because most people, you're always kind of, and again, because of probably Hollywood, you know, you're always expecting this big, huge thing, you know, this, like, you know, horror film or, you know, whatever type situation. This thing is like floating in front of you and the windows fly open and, you know, this type of stuff. But it's, you know, it's not that, you know, there's can be very subtle things and that you don't even realize maybe at first, like when you're kind of first starting, you know, you might be frustrated, nothing's happening, this and that, but actually stuff is, you know.
Have you experienced any modes of manifestations?
James, go ahead. I do have a couple, but do you have?
I mean, so there's different types of practices where you may get experience, or you may be by yourself and you're not doing any practice or any ritual. You're walking through a hallway and you feel like you're having an experience. So I think many people have had experiences that they may not or do attribute to maybe it being a spirit, but it happens more frequently than I think most people think. I think we just alluded to something else. Oh, that was a noise, a house creaking, or whatever, which in most cases it probably is. But in some instances, I believe that a lot of these things do happen in a common occurrence.
Yeah, there's like I know for myself, I'm a person that I try to really evaluate everything. You know, you talk to some people, and it's funny because this person may have just gotten to this thing, you know, yesterday.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, even that, you know, and you know, I did my ritual last night, and I was in a graveyard and this and that. It's like, no, you weren't. You're sitting in your room and you like imagined that for the most part, you know, is generally how it happens. So, but I hear these types of things from people and I always think, well, I hear it a lot, you know, is that really what it's supposed to be like? Because it doesn't happen like that for me. Maybe I'm lacking, maybe, you know, but then he explains this in this book, you know, different people have their different, you know, some people are, and I guess that would be like someone who's psychically inclined. So you have
Yeah.
all these experiences that, you know, you're seeing stuff, you close your eyes and you see this thing, it's happening like a movie, you know? Well, there's other people that doesn't happen that way. I am one of those people. So,
You know, they say that, you know, for example, like angels or spirits will appear to you in a form that you're most comfortable with, right? And this could be, a lot of people believe that this is brought on from like your inner thoughts or memories, and they take the form of that, so you're not so afraid of them.
it's a way for them. It's something that's familiar to you
Yeah, so you're more calm, so you can interact.
because they are this thing that we honestly, as much as we're going to probably talk about it today, we don't even really understand. So they have to, you know, approach us in a way that we can actually perceive, I guess is the word.
Right,
I'm
if we
thinking
can
of,
perceive it. Because, I mean, if you think
exactly,
about it,
yeah.
a lot of things we are not interacting with them on a daily basis or seeing them, you know, they're not part of the job force. You know what I'm saying? They're not
Yeah.
here every day. They're not bringing groceries. They're not, you know, living their own lives here. So this is something that is, you know, there's a little bit of a barrier there.
Yeah, so part of like what a lot of people may, you know if you get into any type of spiritual practice, even if you're a Christian, you might even realize this, but when you're doing a ritual or, you know, which a lot of times is basically a prayer, but something that you're told to do a lot of times is visualize. And people start to, you know, that's where you start to get the question of, okay, well, if I'm visualizing, I'm basically using my imagination. I'm creating these things in my mind. So it's all within me. It's within me. And yes and no. So the visualizing part, you know, it's a practice. It's a muscle that you're working out. Because if you think about it, like what, and you know, we I know that you went to the Delon Milo Duquette lecture, Mike, and also James. He kind of got into this a little bit with the way he was explaining some of that stuff. But oh, I just lost my train of thought.
all right, man.
Visualization from
We're talking about
Long Duquette.
visualization.
No, that's right.
Wrong way.
That's right. So the visualization part, it's like a muscle. It's a exercise because, you know, when if you're able to close your eyes and you can visualize something where you can see it, right? Like you can see this thing, whether it's an orange, let's say it's a fruit, it's an orange. You close your eyes and you actually see that thing. Who's to say that it actually doesn't exist somewhere? You know, some dimensions, you know, something like that. Even further, if you can close your eyes, not only see that orange, but what if you can like actually taste it? You didn't bite it, you know, right here in this physical, you know, where you're at, but you did that in your imagination, but you can taste it. So who's to say that somewhere like in this other reality, this other dimension, however you want to put it, you actually just took a bite of an orange, right? So it's kind of similar that way. Like that's where these things manifest. That's how where they're at. They're in different realms of existence, I guess. He speaks about that to the different levels of like spirits and manifestation and stuff like that. But so the visualization part is working out how to actually see that stuff, you know. So you start off actually visualize. Oh my God. Visualization. I don't know why I can't say visualizing right now. You start off visualizing, but then because you're just, like I said, working that muscle out. But once you get that muscle going strong enough, that thing is actually presenting itself to you. So it will kind of take over. You'll start to see that things will appear to you like you might be working out a specific, you know, visualization. Like this thing is supposed to look this way. It's this color. It's this, it's that, whatever. And, you know, you do that over time. Well, all of a sudden it might appear to you some other way, not the way that you're trying to make it appear. It's another way, but it's because it's actually coming to you on its own that way. So that's, it's really cool. So I've had experiences with that where doing my meditation or my, prayer or whatever, when I'm working through my visualizations, that I've had um stuff come through that I was like, wow, like, and I know that, and again, if you read anything of Jason Miller, he's like, always evaluate, evaluate, evaluate. And so these are things where after evaluate, I'm like, no, yeah, that wasn't me, So that's where I could say, like, with my experience has come with that type of manifestation has been a little bit of the visual stuff. Where, like I said, I don't feel that I'm good at that. So when it happens, I'm like, okay, something just happened.
Right. I think we should kind of take it back to the name of the book here. So it's Consorting with Spirits, right? We're talking about spirits and what is spirits. Just to give you guys some connotation or some background on the name that he chose, which is pretty cool. So Consorting with Spirits. This was the actual name of the crime that people were prosecuted accused of, right, and prosecuted, and then had judgment dealt out. So the Consorting with Spirits is the actual name of the crime. So this would be in sorcerers, witchcraft, witches, or magicians, or anything of the sort that was meddling around with spirits.
This conversation probably could have.
This conversation, if we were back in the day, of course, this whole show we would have been fried a long time ago. And then he breaks down, we're asking, what is spirit? And he breaks it down in different models. You have a spirit model, you have a psychological model, an energy model, an information model, a cyber model, and a meta model. And these are ways of engaging with spirit. These are different models or formats of engaging, pushing and pulling, however you want to describe of what you're doing, your interaction, or say the least, consorting with spirits. So you can do it in a spirit model, a psychological model, energy model, information model, cyber model, and a meta model.
I believe he called it the perception projection ratio, right?
Right. So, with this aspect he's saying basically there are many ways that you can get to this. Like, for example, I used electricity as an example earlier. There's AC, there's DC, there's all kind of stuff. We have wireless charging now. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't have that before. We had no concept of that. We thought if somebody says, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I put my phone down on this thing and just charge? I didn't have to connect. That's stupid. Everybody thought I was stupid because it's inconceivable, as some people would say. So, you have all these different things that are happening here in different forms and models that you can use to interact. So spirit would be interacting with spirit on a spirit level. Psychological, more in the mind. You have the energy. People believe the spirits are more made of energy. And when they try to manifest, there's like the room gets cold because now there's matter being used, being pulled in. And so now they need heat to create matter. The information model will be the information how to interact with through some form of maybe divination or something like that. And then you have your cyber and meta models that he breaks down later on.
He said one of the most important skills to master is meditation. Being
Meditation.
still and being quiet and have zero thoughts.
Yep.
One of his recommendations was to, even if you're not able to do that and you can't do it or you've never done it, just try to sit still without movement, without thought, and focus on breathing for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You can master that over time. That time starts to grow
Exponentially.
Yep.
Yes, and
Gets
then
easier
over
and easier.
It gets easier and easier.
yeah,
So,
over that time, your antenna it starts to tune a little bit
Right.
better.
Imagine if you're trying to hit a target, with a bow and arrow, and versus being really quiet and you're looking down there, but you have me and Brian throwing water balloons at you, or I just run up and jump kick you. That's what your brain's gonna do. I have an itch. Oh, my phone went off. Or what's that bird? That bird over there was making a noise.
My butt cheeks falling asleep.
Right. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a meditation session and my leg, it was usually my leg. My leg would cramp.
That's the one for me.
Yeah,
It's
my
always
leg would cramp because
that.
I was in an Indian position, sitting, which was the most comfortable for me, and it's the fastest way for me to do it. Besides doing some other, almost like yoga stances, there's some Shaolin stances I do. It's pretty cool.
A
But
lot
that-
of people
Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
say
Go ahead.
a lot of people say, well, I can't meditate. There's no way I
You
can do
can.
this. There's no way I can stay still. You sleep for 8 hours. You're in
Mm-hmm.
a coma
Mm-hmm.
for 8 hours in the evening, at night, every day.
No,
Right.
but people also don't really really fully understand what meditation is. Again, because of probably movies or
Right.
whatever, they
Yeah.
think of it as this,
Either in a
you
float
know.
or something.
Yeah, no, really, exactly, and but really, like that whole, you're sitting there for, let's say it starts off at 10 seconds, and let's say you have a mantra. So you're saying this mantra for 10 seconds, and then all of a sudden you remember something about work, and you're like, then you realize, oh, I'm thinking about work. Okay, let me get back to my mantra. So then you go that, back to the mantra. Let's say it's only 10 seconds again, and then now you're thinking about that you had to go shopping and whatever. Then you realize, oh, I'm thinking about shopping. I got to do this mantra. So then, okay, you start it back again. Let's say this time maybe it goes 15 or 20 seconds. But again, you end up like being distracted. You realize you're distracted. Da, da, da. Well, guess what? You've been meditating. That's what it is. You're training your brain to realize that you're no longer, doing this thing that you're doing. Like you're getting into a mode, and then when you're out of that mode, you catch it, and so now you can get right back to it. But you end up by practicing that. Again, they're exercises. That state of, kind of, I guess, flow. I guess we can call that. Excuse
Yeah.
me. Where you're just doing this mantra, or whatever you're supposed to be doing is just happening. You're not fully consciously thinking about it. It's just going on. And then a lot of times you get that hiccup because you kind of just all of a sudden realize, oh wait, like you're kind of coming back, I guess, like
Yeah.
out of that flow state, and then you get that little hiccup of and then, oh yeah, and then you can start doing it again. But yeah, that's what it is. You're meditating. That whole time of being frustrated and I'm doing this, oh man, and thinking that you suck, and okay, just get back to it. All you have to really do is just, once you realize that you're not doing it, get back to it. You're meditating. That's it. But it's again, to go back with the what I was talking about, the practice of visualization. I said it that time. Huh? It's a muscle. It's a thing. It's a thing that you work out so that you can, start to realize those manifestations or those contacts. So again, like earlier, I was briefly talking about just little visual things that I've gotten. Well, I've also I don't know how to so I guess what I can say too on that point is that you can get outer and you can get like inner things, and I guess I've mostly no we've I think we've had some outer stuff, but I also, like, you hear inner sounds sometimes, like, or at least I do.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I always hear bells.
It's the bells, the chimes.
Yes, bells and like wind chimes.
Mhm.
From time to time
Audible.
you'll hear, yeah. But again, for me at least, when I'm saying audible, I'm hearing it, but I know that I'm hearing it internally, if that makes sense. Like I know that the sound's not coming from the backyard, or it's not even coming from the room next to me. Like I'm literally hearing it inside myself,
Right.
But yeah, a lot of bells, chimes, um, kind of female singing, oohs, ahs, kind of, I guess, vowel type, chanting, singing, if you will, is So that, but that's the type of stuff that if you can't even sit still for 30 seconds, you're not going to hear it. You're not going to catch that. So you're going to end your session frustrated because nothing happened, and this and that. But you haven't even practiced. You haven't even strengthened that muscle yet. So you're totally overlooking it, not even understanding that something is actually happening. Because again, it's just the meditation part of it is, I guess, what would you say?
It's the foundation.
Well, that, but I mean, like, you're like, I guess, working on kind of extending your senses.
So
to
your
kind of
brain, your brain is a
reach out
muscle.
to
Yeah,
something
your
else,
brain's a muscle. You're working your brain to do this feat. And people go, "Why don't I?" Like Brian was saying earlier, I can't meditate. Well, was there a time that you didn't drive, and now you get in a car, and more than the majority of us never think when we're driving.
It's scary, right? But
You
but
ever
it's
driven
true.
home from work and be like, "Oh my God, my driveway's right there. I don't even remember what happened." You just space out and you go home. You're all automatic because it's muscle memory. Even the road that you're on, You can space out, and you're driving all the way. You didn't even remember, oh, I have to turn here, but you've done it so many times. So that's all what that is, you know.
In this part of consorting with spirits, I believe in chapter 4, which was very, very interesting when it came to respect and authority. Consorting, meaning you have to earn respect in order for it to be given. Now, I believe just like any relationship, whether it be human or even a pet, but now we're tying in spirit. I see the correlation. I see where you have to understand the relationship that you're cultivating in order for it to grow, right? But at the same time, don't take any shit, because there are spirits out there that will just take, or treat you like shit.
Well, it's
And
like, yeah, it's like engaging with anybody that if you, for example, you want to go out, I need to go buy something, I need to go to Home Depot because that's where that stuff is going to be at in category wise. I go to Home Depot and Home Depot wants to charge me extra tax or something like that. And I go, no, 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 man, I'm only willing to pay the tax that is here for the state. I don't pay your imaginary tax. You have to set the terms and the prerequisites when you engage with a spirit. Otherwise, the spirit has reign. You know, it's kind of like the monkey's paw. You have to be very specific on what you're requesting and asking. Otherwise, he can add the spirit can add all kind of stuff. You know, it's like the genie. The genie goes, "Well, you want to live forever? Cool, I'll make you live forever as a rock. Oh, I want to live forever as me. Okay, cool. You'll live forever as you, but your body's gonna decompose. Well, damn it! And like you have to think about every wording as much as possible. Like, and you hear about this in so many grimoires. When you engage, be careful what you say. Be careful what you say. Make sure that when you say it, it's exactly. You have to think everything out. You know, a lot of people would write it out before they would do their ceremonies or their rituals and stuff like that to make sure that they were precise on that. Good stuff though.
But even like he was saying, and again, I like how Jason Miller, he breaks things down. You treat it like you would treat a human,
Right, because we are spirit as well. Like he said, we are spirit as well.
Yeah, but like like you were saying, like with talking about grimoires and stuff like that. Some of the things are very like torturous, like you're taking this thing and like demanding all this and that and this and that, whatever, and then you get obviously that type of response. But it's the same way that like if someone walked up to you or me in this way, you're gonna react that way as well.
Right.
Whereas if they walk up to you kind of in a friendly manner, then you're gonna talk with them in a friendly manner. So.
Right.
But also, I think something that like Mike had said briefly, you gotta kind of walk all of it though. You gotta be able to protect yourself as well. So that stuff, it does come in handy. But again,
it does appertain to per spirit. For example, you have a spirit that you may need some quick dramatic action from, versus a spirit that would be more calming and basically would maybe a less direct path, but over a period of time you have a gain from it. So
isn't that where offerings come in though? Like there's specific offerings for certain deities. Some are very easy, something easy as maybe liquor or flowers, and then others would require more distinct things and ingredients that are hard to find.
correct. It's the same thing as if I decide to go into a diesel truck, a Tesla, or a regular gas car, or electric car, or a pedal with my own legs. It's the same. It's a vehicle. It's going to get me to point A to point B. Some faster, some slower, some quicker, some more damaging to the environment. But it gets me there faster and it's readily available. It's just what avenue do you want to take per this request? And this request could be you want your crops to yield better crops. You want your neighbor's crops to fail. What do you want to do? What direction are you going in? Just same thing with electricity. I can light a house with it, or I can electrocute a car full of grandmas. It's not really the electricity that's evil. It's how you're using it, how you're using that energy. And those spirits, the thing that electrocute the grandmas could be, some pitchfork that's rigged with electricity or something, That's kind of menacing looking. And then the Tesla that drives me over there is like all nice looking and.
But still to talk about on how you approach and deal with them. um he talks about, and you guys, I'm not gonna give the name of this particular spirit. You guys can get the book and read it. And it's really good because he actually talks about a couple dealings with specific spirits. But
Very specific spirits.
yeah,
Yes.
but there's a spirit where his first time trying to deal with this spirit, he approached it from the I guess it would be the way of the Lesser Keys of Solomon, I believe,
Yeah,
is
grimoire.
what it was. Yes, the grimoire. He approached it that way, which is kind of what I was talking about. That little, kind of torturous, demanding, throwing him in here and threatening and this and that and that. Well, he said that when he did that, he did have an experience, and he said it was terrifying. He said that it. What did he say? He said that it felt like that feeling that you have when, say, you're in a fight, and you're fighting this person, and you see a punch coming to your face. You can't get out of the way. You're gonna get hit, and it's like that split second about it, like it's about to hit your face. He said that feeling, He said, I guess, just came over him, and he couldn't shake it, and it was just like terrifying. So I guess he did his thing to finish it and get it out. You can leave now, that type of thing. Went away, felt better. But he was scared, so he's like, I don't think I want to deal with this particular spirit. So he did not for years. And again, you guys can verify this in the book. It was a good, I think, 10 to 20 years later. I think it was. He I don't know if he just, I don't recall if he just decided, you know what, I'm going to try this again from a different perspective, or if he says that he actually read something where somebody, that's what it was, right? Yeah. He read another, because, and again, you're always, as like a magician, a sorcerer, you should always
You're gonna try
be,
different things.
yes, you should try, different stuff, study different paths even, he found another source dealing with the same spirit in a different way, and it was a lot more friendly, of a way. So he's like, you know what, let me try this out. So he tried that out, and he had a different experience. The spirit came through in a way more friendly manner, and I think he even says he still deals with that spirit to this day. But again, because of how he approached it.
Yes, he's
Based
very
on that
clear.
format, yeah.
Yeah, he's very clear on, expect the results when you come in a little too hot to receive it hot, because it's exactly like trying to speak to a person. You're not going to come in, hey, Brian, you're going to give me this and you're going to give it to me tomorrow, or else you're not going to be happy with that, because that's not cool, dude,
Right.
but we're talking about different types of energies here, and the rules are completely different, right? They don't pertain to 3D reality. So I, I think in that sense, you know, consorting with these spirits is not, well, one, it's not easy, but two, there are a lot of different ways to do it, and I didn't know that. Like when I got through this part, it was just amazing on how many different types of ways you can consort with these beings. And it could be from a prayer standpoint to an actual summoning to uh, being possessed, or there was just so many different ways.
And almost
And
all of those ways, Mike, in the beginning of that, and any student has to learn how to defend themselves and to protect themselves. It's an
yes,
over exhausted. They exhaust it over and over and over. You have to learn to protect yourself first before even learning the steps to do what you're talking about. In all of those forms, that's the first thing you have to do.
there was one part of the book where I believe he was talking about a group of women that belonged to a Catholic church. There's a bunch of ladies who were clearly favored by spirits and saints that they prayed to. Um, they said that in the book, he said that their requests and their prayers in the community were being seen. That whatever they were praying to, obviously God, I think it was obviously Christian, right?
Yeah.
And their prayers would be answered, right? But they never received any communication back from the spirits they were calling. The prayers just were answered, you know, and that's very common in these practices. And the kicker at the end was like, okay, you have this group of women who are doing this, right? Are they witches? He straight out said, not for me to decide, but for my money, they are.
They're consorting with spirits, aren't they?
Yeah, right. I mean, you could call it whatever you want to call it. Just admit what it is, though.
Right. Like a lot of this was going on to where you had, on one hand, somebody screaming how holy they are and denouncing witchcraft, and at the same time, they are committing witchcraft at the same damn time. It was just who was in power. For a really good example of this was King James. On one end of his castle, he had a bunch of scribes writing the Bible. On the other end of the castle, he had witches trying to turn his urine into gold. So he didn't know what. I don't think he cared what avenue worked, as long as it worked.
He just wanted results.
He wanted results,
right?
So he wanted to
Got
be right. He wanted to be safe in heaven, right? So he had all the scholars doing all that stuff and writing the Bible in his name, or a reversion, a new version of the Bible, right? And then on the other hand, he's like, and I got to get mine while I'm here too. So that was very, very common where you had either people
Double dipping.
Oh, way double dipping, man. You have like, what was it, Pope Pius? He would denounce all these Templars, right, and all this other stuff and witchcraft and stuff. Yet he was draining little boys of blood using pigs' veins and doing blood transfusions. One of the earliest blood transfusions, you know, and it's like insane. And like, you know, maybe he wasn't killing some of these kids, but I mean, just the horrors of that. Like they didn't have needles back then. Like how the hell are they doing that? You know, but that's what he was into, and that was a fringe science back then. You know, there wasn't even doctors. There was a guy with a rag. You know what I'm saying? And he was the doctor. He was the one who was, hey, I have a hot poker that I'm going to burn your hole, that you have a gaping hole in your arm to cauterize it. And hope you live, bud. You know, and then they're doing a blood transfusion. So, you know, somebody has to start somewhere. It's usually pretty mucky and gross until we understand how to perfect it, make it look nice, and then it becomes a science. You know, but they all started somewhere. Since we're talking about this double dipping, should we go to Saint Cyprian?
Yeah.
So Saint Cyprian, pretty cool dude. A lot of people hear about Saint Cyprian. Saint Cyprian did a lot of really cool stuff. He basically was a 4th century sorcerer. He was the most learned sorcerer of his time. He basically fell in love with this female named Justinus. He fell in love with her. He wanted to woo her. So what any good sorcerer does is he summoned demons to go fetch her and to win her over for him. And every time these demons would show up, she would do the sign of the cross, and the demons would flee. And they would come back and say, hey, man, we can't do it. And he would summon somebody greater, go bigger, bigger, bigger. And then he goes to here and gets these bigger demons, the generals of hell or whatever, to go over there and to woo her. And she keeps doing the sign of the cross. He's like, damn, okay. I used what I know, and it doesn't work because she's doing the sign of the cross. At least the story goes. So he converts.
Yeah, he's like, I need to learn that.
Right, because what magic is this? Because he just sees this magic. So he basically... what's he do? He converts over to Christianity, becomes like, what is it, not a pope, not a cardinal or archbishop or something like that. It was something. He becomes something like that, and she becomes a nun. They stay really close friends, apparently. And
I think they like performed exorcisms together.
Yeah, there's a bunch of
they
different
did a bunch of
stories.
actual. If you like really look at it, they did a bunch of magic together.
It was magic,
but as like Catholic Christians, you know. Catholic Christian magic.
Right. So it was under the guise of Christianity that they were doing this in the name of the Lord. And it was kind of like having Constantine say that he's actually a Christian, and Constantine the movie, the DC comic, that he's a Christian, and he's just doing this in Christian magic, which is clearly not Christian magic. So he does that, and then the story goes is that he continued his practices, his magical practices, while being Christian the whole entire time. So there's a lot of magic that deals with Saint Cyprian. A lot of people like him. A lot of people like to use him for various things to work through him.
But there's a reason why, right? Why you can even work with him. It's because of what he was doing when he was alive, like all his
Already.
work. Yeah,
Right.
He made connections and
Right.
with basically heaven and hell. I guess
With both. So he was using both agents.
he was
Because he realized that you can't just use one or the other. You have to use both, because everything, again, we've echoed this on the show numerous times: as above, so below; as within, as without; micro, macro. Everything needs a balance. So he was using both. These guys work great for when somebody tries, to do harm to me, and I want to do some magic back to them. I use these guys. If I want to use some healing apparatus or healing spells, then maybe he's using a different spirit for that. You know what? We're just going to give a quick shout out here to Jeremy Gaffney. What's up, brother? Michael Samu, what's going on, man? Play the piano for us again. Jay Beasy, what's up, bro? I hope you finished reading that book. I would love to hear what you thought about that book you got. That is in our discourse. Check out our discourse if you haven't. And Dreebat, what's going on? Many cultures saved and continue their practices under the cloak of the church. That's kind of a yes and no answer, actually. It's I wouldn't say many cultures saved themselves. It was the church couldn't physically get rid of it. So they indoctrinated their culture and or beliefs and ripped out things that they thought were Satan. So yes, it's kind of a yes and no. Good statement there, Dreebat. What else do we have by Saint Cyprian?
Chapter 6.
Okay, what else you got?
You still got more with Saint Cyprian?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Chapter 6, where he's talking about local spirits and getting to know the locals. It kind of made sense, why wouldn't you have something that's been around that area or your
That
local
area,
area be in your favor? So that way when you're making these connections later on, maybe that being or thing knows it and says, hey, I'll hook you up. I know a guy, which was very interesting to me because I didn't know that world worked that way,
Right.
Again,
But
kind of like humans,
Yeah.
like the big boss isn't the one doing all the work. He's got, there's people under him and
He
An
delegated.
assortment.
A lot.
contracts out with this company and this and that. They do the deliveries and very similar.
The line between good and evil is kind of traversed very easily in
Extremely easily.
in this area because, like you said, James, he and I'm talking about Jason Miller. He talks about going into both, where you're talking to the demons and you're talking to the angels, or
Right. I
sometimes
mean,
you're
they
doing
were all
both
the
at
same, correct?
time.
Yeah, they were all the same.
Yeah.
They only separated over a disagreement.
Right, but from a Christian standpoint, right?
Mhm.
That sounds just so outlandish. It just sounds like, how is that even possible, right? It just shows how ignorant we are,
Well,
because
I
that
was going
world
to say,
is very
I mean,
different.
it's a viewpoint, and that viewpoint, when and I'm not trying to knock anything. This is just what it is. You limit yourself on not only what you can do, but your belief. When your belief tells you not to believe anything else, that's kind of like a red flag a little bit, and says never to go look over there whatsoever. Never read, listen. You need to turn tail, stick your fingers in your ears, and run. I mean, that's just kind of suspect a little bit. Like, I'm just going to say this. If I was a god, all-powerful, omnipotent, I dare you. Go do it. Because, and then in the end of that, I could play, pardon the pun here, but devil's advocate, is if God is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing, and all omniscient, wouldn't he be the other side as well, right? He's everywhere, right? So It would be all things go through God, as they say, right? All paths go through all paths lead to God. So you would just be taking the long road either way. So he wouldn't care. At least that's what I would think. I mean, according to all the teachings and stuff, you know?
Yeah, I
Um,
agree with that statement wholeheartedly.
I mean, it's like, go ahead, man. Go do it. Good for you. Because, like, it's kind of weird because, like, they say, you know, he gave us freedom to choose. But why would we have punishments then? Because he wants us to choose. It's like, damn, man, you know what? I want you to choose for yourself. And you chose something that I didn't want for you, but I'm glad you chose for yourself. Go do it. But it's not like that. It's like you have the freedom to choose what you want, but I'm going to throw you in hell for choosing that. That's not freedom of choice.
No.
Clearly, that's a definition textbook. That's not my opinion. That's not. That's if you don't do this, I hit you with this. That's tyranny. That's something completely different. So I don't know. I just think if it was any God, whatever God it may be, you know, if you're powerful and you're all this and that, I think you would, just like how he tells us, you know, to do good through our works. Well, wouldn't he just do that too? Right?
Right.
Look at me, worship me for all the good works I do for you. Not worship me for I'm a jealous God. Worship me for all the things I do for you. Look at this. I create miracles in front of you. Here you go. Everything's fruitful. Everything's amazing. No. So it's a little
I
different.
did mention going to churches, specifically to churches, temples, synagogues, to meditate and pray. Now, we all understand why these places are designed for that, you know, but in this situation, it's a little bit different. I think what he's saying here is this is going to help you learn how to meditate and focus and get you the results that you want times 10, because you're in a place that is just for that. So if you
Right.
can't meditate at home, or you're having problems doing it because there's just too much going on, go to a church or go to a temple, go to a synagogue, go to a place of worship where you
Yeah.
can be with your thoughts and really focus.
Well, all those places produce not just one thing, but one main thing, which is a place of solitude. So you can go there
Right.
and be with your thoughts and meditate. But when he's talking about that, just say it. But those places are actually acting as a resonance amplifier. So when you're inside of a temple, synagogue, church, or a building like that, the architecture alone is made to amplify what you are doing. So if you
Correct.
are
Especially-
meditating and chanting, you are now
Right.
doing it in a megaphone. So that's
Right.
really what the idea and the concept of as why these temples or places of worship, whatever denomination you may be or whatever belief system, that's what they're there for. It's a focalized point where you can go and people go and now meditate. So now the energy of all the other people that have meditated the same thing that you're so much going to meditate, you know, it's very fairly similar, you know, to this God, whatever it may be, you know, the Japanese God or, you know, El, Elohim, or, you know, whoever you're
Right.
worshiping, Lucifer, whatever. That temple is there to amplify whatever you're doing to get that to that deity.
And you know, from my experience, growing up Catholic, growing up at St. Matthias and Huntington Park, that part that you just said right there, that these places are specifically designed, yes, they are. And I remember being a kid and having that experience. It was a good experience. I'm not gonna say it was bad. It was a good experience because I felt I felt good going through me, right?
Hmm.
Whether that's God or the Holy Spirit, whatever, right?
Whatever
'Cause
that was, that energy or that spirit
exactly
was, right?
whatever we were trying to get, we got, and
Mhm.
it worked. And uh, I remember just when you walk into, if for those of you who've never been to a Catholic church, it's very different than a Christian church. It's a little more solemn. Uh, there's a lot of marble, there's a lot of stone, and so depending on
Statues and
how
pictures.
old, yeah, how
You
old
just
the
sit
church
there and
is.
watch all the stories by the numbers.
This church is pretty old and it's very, very huge. The acoustics there are super loud, and it was built very, I want to say in the late 1800s, one of the first buildings erected in Huntington Park.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of history there. And on top of that, it was built in a way where the focus of sound from where the priest is at and the altar,
That's a
or
specific
even
location, yeah.
yes,
So that's
it
supposed to be
just,
the throat of the church, just
boom,
to let you guys know that.
it
That's
resonates from there
right.
and it blows up. and that's where you feel it, right? And that's where you feel it. And I'm not saying, hey, you got to go to church and check this out, but no, if you do have a church nearby, or go check one out and just sit there for a while and just meditate, think. This actually made me want to go back and kind of reconnect with that. And I'm not saying I want to go back and, become fully Christian again. No, I want to go back and I want to connect with God. 'Cause that's what I did when I was a kid. There's a big difference now.
Right.
So I see it as in a different light. Again, yeah, James, like you said, go to a church, and these places, regardless of what you're praying to, they're designed for that.
They're designed for it. Yeah, there are specific locations within those temples, depending on what architectural design they have. But there's a spot, like you were saying, that you can step on. It's usually denoted by stones. Usually something's different, and you can step on that. If there was nobody in the building and you spoke, it would sound super crazy.
Yes. And then, as a kid, as an altar boy, we messed around with that a lot. And
It's like projection
would-
of your voice. Yeah.
we would just start yelling and screaming just to see how, because nobody else was in the church. It was just us.
Yeah.
We were setting it up, and we're just making all this noise. And there's certain areas like you said, right behind the altar is the sweet spot.
Mhm.
That's where it was just super loud. And anywhere else was loud, but not as loud. Like you said,
Right.
it's the throat, and it was designed for that.
Right. Yeah. The head of the church is where Christ would be. Right. The cross. So
Mhm.
that's the head. The throat or the vocal cords would be where the pulpit
altar.
or the altar, where the priest is going to be, and then you have the breast or the heart, which would be the the people, the congregation, and then you have I think the diaphragm is supposed to be the what's it called where the choir boys go up there? The area, the balcony in the back behind you when you're sitting.
I think it's called the balcony.
That's the balcony or whatever it is. It's like the choir's balcony or something.
No,
I-
I think it's just a balcony, man.
Yeah, they go up there, they sing up there, right? At least in the
Yeah.
right. So that's supposed to be like the diaphragm, and I think when you move on, the entrances. We all know the entrances we talked about on the show and stuff. So good times.
Fear and danger. Chapter 7, fear and danger was
Protection, protection, protection.
a big one, right? And a lot of it, what he was referring to was, Hollywood really paints this picture, and Hollywood actually scares us more than what it actually is. Not to say that there's people who've had experiences out there that were very, very bad, but in general, he said that it's not really what you expect, like in Hollywood, where things manifest and shit gets thrown, or it's a lot of that is just a BS, and
Right.
it's kind of messing it. I want to say it's messing up the scene, but it's kind of giving bad information or false information.
Just keep in mind, Hollywood is literally the term when you break it down is from the Holly branch, which is a druid branch they would use to make wands to create illusions. So it's literally Hollywood or Hollyland is the land of illusions. That's Hollywood literally translated. So yes, it's literally illusions. They create illusions for fun, they always summon a devil on a pentagram, and the pentagram is a protection, which is so funny. And then half the time in the movies, Satan never shows up, right? Because they have a pentagram on the floor, which he couldn't stand on. So it's like you knocking on somebody's door and then holding the door from the outside so they couldn't open it, or like wedging the door shut. So it was always kind of funny to see them do that. I'm like, why do they always freaking do that? Like, can't they just pay somebody to come in and give them better information? It's like the whole thing with Star Wars and like the lasers, pew, 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 pew. There's no sound in space, bro. But it would be a horrible movie if it was all muted when they were fighting in space, right? So you have to add a little bit of illusion.
And if they can hit their shots, it
God.
end a lot quicker.
You think back, it's like in the future, my laser is going to automatically go to you. I don't even have to point anywhere, right? Let's get to that, right? You made a Death Star. You can't hit nothing.
Right.
Okay, I digress.
Well, as far as protection is concerned, what is the bare minimum?
Knowledge. If you do not know, go away. Don't do it. It's just like if I didn't know how to drive and I'm a 12-year-old and I took my dad's keys, I could probably go around the block and I'm going to hit something. The chances are really high. I may not hit nothing. I may do it 10 times and never hit nothing. But I take it out on the highway and I get run over. Or I don't know about streetlights. I know stop signs, but I know streetlights. Or I don't know what a blinking red light is. You know, if you don't know the signs.
Yeah, definitely. You know, if you're gonna try to do anything, you know, do your studying and stuff like that. But probably if you're gonna say anything about the most basic, maybe kind of a protection thing, it's probably gonna be a circle.
Right.
You know,
Circle of salt.
You know, always make. You know, it's just a stab, and even at that, it's not even as
It's not 100%.
it's not
either.
well, not necessarily that, but it's not as, you know, super mystical even as, you know, people put it. It is and it's not. You're just establishing a little barrier,
boundary,
a little
yeah.
boundary. I mean, I think it's in this book that he talks about literally with his toe. He like in the carpet, just dragging out a circle with his
Right.
toe.
Yeah.
It's
You're-
more for
but-
visual for
yes,
yourself.
exactly. Because a lot of stuff
Your mind.
it's mental things for you. You know, it's kind of like when, you know, I'm in my 40s, so I don't know. Maybe if younger people know this little thing or not, but like, you talk about like tying a thread on your finger to remember something. You know, it's just a little trigger, something for you to do, a mental trigger to know that something's going on. So, yeah, you make this little circle. So you're saying, I'm in here. This stuff is out there. I'm protected. You know, you told yourself, you made that. You know.
It's also to create belief within you. You know?
Yes, exactly.
So just to read a quote, he says, chaos magicians suggested that because belief was the primary factor in magic, one could switch between these by investing belief in whatever suited your work. So the power of belief, you know, like I drew that circle, nothing can cross it. It's, you know, you need that realization that I can do.
And then again, stack on top of that the visualization that, let's say this circle you just drew is flaming, it's on fire, or it's, you know, so now it's this really protective barrier, you know, so you added a visualization to that. So now, you know, you're working in that other dimension or that other realm. You just established that space somewhere else, you know. You can even do this when, I think, if you guys, James mentioned it, our Discord. If you guys go into our Discord, we had a talk going on about astral projection, and somebody was talking about establishing spaces while you're astral projecting. You know, so again, the visualization and stuff like that, that's tools, or not tools, but it's just practice and exercise to get to that.
That's practice. It's for anything you do in life, right? You need to practice. But people say they practice, they're practitioners.
But
Um,
also, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to get into the next chapter.
Oh, no, okay. But I was gonna say also, with all that said and done, you know, people get, you know, scared and this and that, whatever. Well, understand, if you did your research and, you know, you practiced and you've done your exercises and stuff to get stronger and stuff like that, you can try stuff out, because the magic that is going to hurt you is also going to protect you. And that's that part that they always leave out of the movies. You know, we're talking about Hollywood movies. The magic is always strong enough to harm you and backfire on you. But for some reason, all the protection that you've put in place will never work. And it, you know, doesn't necessarily work that way. If you've done your research and stuff, and you've learned these things to protect yourself, you should be okay to try some things out. But again, you know that you are trying some things out, you know.
Right.
But
you got that guy that pastor that was like, COVID-19, I cast you out. They did that metal redo, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's literally, that's what he's doing. He's casting.
Yeah.
He's casting it. He's on national television.
Yeah, he's calling this thing. He gave it a name.
He gave it a name.
And yeah.
And he calls upon God, and that's exactly what the consorting with spirits is.
Yeah.
But
God
it's
did
all the
not
same
answer
thing,
him.
except the name is just God.
Yep.
That's the only difference.
Yeah. And also, you guys, we are we're glossing over a lot of stuff. We're kind of bouncing back and forth. I think Mike is trying to keep us in some sort of order, but I don't think we're necessarily doing that. We're kind of going back and forth. It's a really
Yeah.
good book. You guys really have to get this
You
book
should
and read it.
this book.
Something that we're not talking about and that we didn't actually really mention is that he actually gives you rituals to try.
Yeah.
You know, for contacting and consorting with spirits, and
know-
also he not only through one lens, he gives you was it 3? He does
It's like at least 3.
he does the Hecate, he
Mhm.
does Luciferian, and then
Saint
he does
Cyprian.
the Saint Cyprian, which is a Christian lens. So he gives you 3 different viewpoints, 3 different paths of how you can consort with spirits and with different spirits and ways to go about it. But then again, if you're somebody that has done, you know, research and stuff, you don't have to be specifically, you know, dealing with those 3 paths. If you know your path and you know what's what, then when you're reading through these rituals that he lays out for you, you will see and know where to remove and replace to make it work for what it is that you actually do. So that's another really good thing about his stuff, his books, and what he does.
Just to give you guys some, well, to give you guys literally the contents of the book, there's the chapter titles here before we move on to the next one. Chapter 1 is What is a Spirit? 2, Modes of Manifestation. 3, Spirit Skills. 4, Respect and Authority. 5, Prayers and Spells. 6, Get to Know the Locals. 7, Fear and Danger. 8, Friendly Conjuring.
That's
9,
where we're at right now.
9, Compelling Conjurations. 10, Intermediary Spirits and Familiars. 11, Relationships and Pacts. And 12 will be Questions and Answers. And there's party words and notes in here. So this is I mean, it's not that big of a book, but it's still 215 pages. I mean, that's a lot to digest. That's not something you're going to finish in one day. Not only that, but the information that's in there is... You're going to go and Google a bunch of stuff and other books. I mean, he's quoting, he's reciting a bunch of different things, he quotes. So this is a really well-rounded book here. Are we going to jump
Funny
into
how
number
we
8?
were talking about, we're on chapter 8, Friendly Conjuring, and when Brian was talking about, there's actual rituals in here. And earlier last week when I was reading through this book, I put it on text to speech so I could just hear it, right? And when I put it on text to speech, it got to a part where I was like, "Oh, what the fuck?
I don't think I want this
I
playing
turned
out
it
loud."
off real quick. What's going on? So I had to stop it.
Your house got
and
all
then
dark,
physically-
started shaking.
Yeah. So I started reading, and bro, I had like my studio speakers on, you know, so it was loud, and I was like, "Okay, no, let's stop it right here." I started just to read the rest myself, and before I summon the fucking demon or something.
That is a fucking
It
hilarious.
was funny. It was funny at the moment, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it was crazy. So getting to now, we're in chapter 8, Friendly Conjuring, where we invite the spirit to appear rather than demand the spirit to appear. I think that from a logical perspective, that makes sense, right? Like, you want somebody to come over to your house, you want to have some things for that person. Hey, come over to Pat. I got some whiskey, or I have this great food that I'm making, you know? And
Yeah, I think
He
it's
kinda-
I
he
think
takes
his
the same approach.
analogy is something like, you know, a new neighbor moved in. You know,
Right.
the way
Yeah.
that you approach them.
What do you do? Do you go over there? Do you knock on the
that-
door?
yeah, it'll
text them?
it'll establish how that relationship, you know, goes from that point on. You know.
another thing that he was talking about is the things that you use for rituals. And he was talking about the sigil of Lucifer. He said, you know, having that isn't a bad thing, but why would you want to have that on your cup of Joe in the morning? Because technically you're having something that's going to attract a demon to you on your cup that you're drinking.
But also,
Isn't-
did you see the little known fact that is actually Asian Lucifer? Just that I guess the world just thought that particular Lucifer sigil looked the coolest, so that's
Right.
what everybody uses. But that particular sigil is specific to Asia.
Lucifer liked that one the most. That's why
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So what
I
he
did
says is
not know
maybe,
that.
Lucifer liked the way that one looked the most also. That's why he, it was so attractive to everybody else that are into him, but yeah, that's just, that kind of goes into the local stuff a little bit of how something can start off local, but it can gain traction and move and become something bigger, that's
Yeah.
more worldwide.
Yes.
For example, like the Satanic Church, they use
Yeah.
Baphomet,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like I have
Has
nothing
nothing to
against the
do with
Satanic
Baphomet.
Church. I love what they're doing in as far as the court and how they're trying to, for people's freedoms and their rights. But you took Baphomet and made him a Satan. That's just
That's
Yeah.
dumb.
that one does bother me.
Yeah.
Other than that, great work, guys.
Yeah. It's very complex. This consorting experience.
We have JBZ here just put, I wonder if the Kabbalistic encyclopedia would help with names and definitions. Unfortunately, with these things, it would help to an extent. You have to keep going back. Again, it's the game of Jenga, just like with religion. It's the same thing with wordplay. When you have a name, specifically a name of a deity, you can keep going back, and then you see the attributes and stuff that are attributed to that name, and then it just keeps going. It's a game of Jenga. You got to keep going all the way back to the bottom.
But that's exactly what the important part of doing that is, though. So it is good to get encyclopedias like that to look up names,
sure.
because so that's the thing, is that a lot of these deities, they have different names. People on this area, this part of the planet, called it one name. It was called the same thing was called another name over here, but also it may have showed itself a different way, and this is an analogy I think that Jason he uses in the book, definitely. Your family knows you, they know a certain version of you. You go to work, your coworkers know a certain version of you. You go out, whatever you do, you party on the weekend, those people know a certain, but it's still all you. So knowing those different names, though, when it in terms of consorting, because that's what we're talking about here, that's gonna help you in your work, because again, what's the point of consorting with the spirit? They're helping you with your work. If you're a practitioner, that's the purpose of it. They're helping you along with whatever it is your goal that you're trying to get.
They
So
just have job titles, man. They got
no, yeah,
they have
yeah,
job titles.
exactly,
and
exactly.
For this function, I need somebody who does construction.
Yeah.
Versus somebody who does, childcare.
Yeah, so like Hecate, she has many different epithets, and you use them for different things. You're trying to get something moved out of your way. It might be propole that you're gonna call on. You want to unlock something, you're gonna call on Claduke. So there are different aspects of the goddess, or the specific deity. So there's Brimo, there's more like wrathful, epithets, vengeful. So maybe you're doing a specific working that you might want, maybe someone's been messing with you, and you need it to stop,
And you gave him ample time to leave you alone. He still didn't.
and yeah, exactly. So, and that's when you're going to do that type of thing. It's not that you do that all the time, or maybe you're the type of person that does that type of thing all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not into that. But if you've messed with me enough, I might
You're
get to
gonna get
that
it.
point. And
You're
so,
Or you might ask somebody who does.
and so you're going to want to know, you're not going to call on the friendly version of the deity you work with, because, you're not looking for friendly work, So yeah, like encyclopedias and knowing the different names and stuff like that is actually a really good thing to get into.
Absolutely. And I would also say, like, how Jason Miller goes through all these different grimoires. He's showing you how he's going and checking all these different grimoires. And this grimoire tells you to do this. And this grimoire, which is older, it tells you to do just about the same thing, except for this piece that's completely left out. And as he was saying, you have to try different things. Like Brian was saying earlier, he had tried one with his deity and he hated it. And 10 years later, he tried a whole nother method of contacting that or conjuring that spirit. And it was completely different and totally worked for him. And it was like, hey, this works out. It yielded something, whatever that was, an experience, or yielded an outcome that he desired. So good stuff.
I really like that part in Compelling Conjurations, which is chapter 9, where he's talking about, if you believe that demons are legit fallen or damned, then why wouldn't you bind them to do your work? I mean, it worked for Solomon. Why wouldn't it work for you?
Right.
And his main rule was don't morph into the person that you think will best suit them. Instead, think about who you are, and how you want the interactions to go. And that was a quote from the book. Uh, he really gets into the Q&A in your mind when you're reading this book, because he's talking about something, and then you have a question, then he answers it.
So
right
just
after.
They're
just to
practical.
speak on that real
Yeah,
quick,
they're practical.
that Q&A comes from, so he teaches courses. He has courses online. His website is strategic sorcery
Strategic sorcery,
.net.
yes.
And so you can go there and check out different things he offers there.
And
And
I believe
so
his IG is just strategic sorcery as well.
yes, it is. It is. So, but if you go to his website and you can check out the different courses and things he offers, and when you hop into these, he has free stuff, he has paid stuff as well. But anyways, when you hop into, and you get into the community, you get access to forums and stuff like that. The Q&As for this book came directly from from people like us. Actually, me and James are part of some of his groups. So when he was working on this book, we got emails. Hey guys, I'm working on this book. This is what the topic is. If you guys have any questions on this topic, send them in. I didn't myself. I didn't ask anything. I don't know if James did or not.
Wow.
But so just to know that, yeah, these questions are real people from, practitioners that are, at various levels trying to figure this out the same way we all are.
Right. And going into chapter 10, which is in intermediary spirits and familiars. And there was a part here that really hit home. And I'm going to mention something that's going to make James very happy.
Just to mention, JBZ was wondering if there's a Kabbalistic encyclopedia. In the book, on page like 154, it's conjure other demons with his method, but he gives you a list of demon names, the Hebrew version of that name. It's English, Hebrew, and then Egyptian. And
Yes.
it's about 1, 2, 3, 4 pages long. So he is giving you names and different versions of that. So if you did have that Kabbalistic encyclopedia, you can look at his book and now compare. I can't tell you how many books I'll have open when I'm doing research, either for an episode, my own personal stuff, or somebody asks me something. I'll have 4 or 5 books open, and it's specifically to check the references or words. Are they the same word? Is it different somehow? Is it used in a different connotation? So it is key that you do know etymology of what words you are using and the etymology of the names of the deities. Go for it, Mike.
And yes, Michael Samu, just to comment real quick from the chat, you definitely don't want to necessarily mix and match traditions too crazy, because it kind of won't make sense. And Jason actually, he does talk about that in the book. Like, you wouldn't, what did he say? Something about you wouldn't use a Furba with Odin for to do another tradition. So yeah, it all has to make sense with
Right.
Yeah,
It has to fit into that dichotomy.
Yeah, exactly.
My part that really got to me was him stating, get to know your guardian angel, understand your guardian angel. Then he references the sacred magic of Abramelin, the mage.
Yes.
And what that book is. And we've covered it before.
At the first chapter, he mentions it.
We mentioned A Dark Song in the movie, which it goes into that. But, 18 months asking God fervently for your personal angel to act as an intermediary between you and God and between you and demons, which are technically summoned under your power during this ritual. How important is it to really know your guardian angel? Because when he stated this, it was like, okay, why isn't this mentioned anywhere else? This is the first time I hear it in this sort of way.
Right.
From the way he talks about it, he says it's, and I've kind of heard about it in the opposite. And he does mention it too, is I always hear about, people are doing it later on and older in life. But he's like, no, you should actually do it younger as soon as you can if you're into this stuff at a younger age. But he said pretty much as soon as you're getting into these type of things, you should try to get that communication as soon as possible, because it's actually going to help you with the rest of your work because you have some sort of connection going on already.
Right.
And those who are familiar with the Abramelin, it is an 18-month ritual, which has been broken down to a 6-month ritual, which was later broken down by Crowley's
Crowley.
ritual into a whole day. I believe
It's also
24 hours.
yeah. The Abramelin is also referred to as the headless ritual. So some people may know it more, are more familiar with that term than the Abramelin. So just to play a word play on that, the headless ritual, a lot of people say that it's because your higher self is your guardian angel. So imagine you at your Christ avatar. You know, I'm not talking about Christ himself, but the christened one. You know, your higher self, your higher elevated self that's already there, but it's waiting for you to catch up. So, some people talk about that this guardian angel that shows up is really you in your highest form. And then there's other people like, no, it's literally your guardian angel that's going to show up. And then you get a wish or you get to ask for something or in exchange or something like that.
Silver or some bullshit.
Right.
And then that's something that he speaks about as well. That kind of your belief on that doesn't matter.
It does not
because
matter.
you're gonna end up finding out. And
Yeah.
from what he says, it's definitely not you.
It's not right. I thought that was really cool. That I love that line where he goes, I don't need you to believe in me
Exactly.
for me to exist.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And he was like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, what? He
Yeah.
goes, I don't depend on you, basically. Like, what are you talking? Get through the BS, buddy.
Yeah.
I thought that was like super, super, super cool because I mean, think about it. If somebody doesn't know a gun exists, right? They have no concept. I'm like, hey man, I'm gonna kill you from over here. I don't believe that. That doesn't mean nothing to me. I'm gonna pull that trigger, right? And then they're gone. Just because they don't know or they don't understand doesn't mean that belief, in one sense, belief could be everything, and in the same hand, it could be nothing.
Yes.
Which is crazy because it could be so powerful and so useless. Because I always talk on the show, I hate the word belief, and it's a double-edged sword because belief is I am certain that something over there exists without me knowing, without me having any proof. That's the definition of belief. But at the same time, you can say that belief gives you a core ability to believe. I hate to use that word, but to give you a strength that comes from nowhere. Almost, it's kind of like the placebo effect, and people go, well, the placebo effect is pointless. Well, no, it works, right? If it achieved the outcome, it achieved the outcome. If you tell somebody, doesn't matter how you end up telling them, but if it's a placebo effect and that desired outcome reaches, then the placebo effect worked. Whether you give them a pill or some magical powers and they did the same thing, it still worked. That belief still worked, which is incredible. It's so powerful, and at the same time, it's almost nothing. It's almost idiotic, to be honest. I'm 100% sure that something I cannot see, hear, touch, or know about, or have any inkling about is there. Why? Somebody told me. That sounds ridiculous, right? And then people go, but I have a feeling. I have a feeling that that's there. Why? The only way that you know that it's there is somebody told you. You didn't create that on your own unless you just create something already that exists somewhere else and nobody else talked about. But again, that's based off of something you've already heard growing up. So it's weird, this word belief.
Yeah, it's very weird. Chapter 11, which I think this is where we should probably stop because chapter 12 is Q&A and that should be left to the reader.
Buy the book, man. Buy the book.
Chapter
I know
11,
people who've had this on waiting to purchase this for over a year.
relationships and pacts. Always keep your promises or pay the consequences when it comes to dealing with spirits or deities. And do not yield servanity.
So yeah, again, if you ask this thing to do something for you, and you say, if you do this, I will do this for you, and they do what they did for what you asked, and then now you're not gonna
Right.
reciprocate it. That's kind of messed up. Again, back to dealing with humans, right?
Right.
Hey,
Mhm.
Mike, can you help me out with blah 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 blah? I'll buy you lunch.
Okay,
All right,
I
cool,
help you
thanks,
out.
man. Oh, all right, I gotta go. Hey, but lunch. Oh,
Never mind.
Fuck.
how about
Never
like
mind.
next week? And then, how about next week again? And then again, and it doesn't happen. Then like I need help again. Hey, Mike, you think you can help me? Nah, man.
No.
You still owe me lunch from, 2 months ago. Whatever but it's the same. It's the same type of thing, where and again the it can vary from just I'm not gonna help you anymore to maybe I might smack you this time a little bit,
Yeah.
or maybe it's
The
not
results
or maybe
vary.
it's not necessarily that I'm gonna smack you.
Or I don't help you no more.
It's I'm not gonna stop you from being smacked by something else.
Right.
Is kind of
Mm.
more of what it would be.
More realistic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, consorting with spirits was a really, really good, informative, and very deep read. I mean, it's not a
It's an easy
1,000-page
read, but
book,
it's also
but it's a
Yeah.
good read.
It's full of information. Just to let you guys know, I'm a notes guy. I have 4 pages of notes from the book, and there's more in there that I have to go back and to do my little researches on, like the different grimoires that he's talking about and stuff like that. Not just the common ones like the Beacatrix and stuff like that, but he's talking about a lot of different things in here. So he has a lot of information. So when you're done with the book, you're gonna reread it and basically follow all the little avenues, all the little rabbit holes.
Yeah.
But just to
There's a
sum
lot
up
of
what
them.
Brian was saying, he goes right there. Hey, you look out for me, and I look out for you. So when you make a deal with the spirit, that's what it's supposed to be. You scratch
That's what
my
it
back,
is.
I scratch your back. You don't follow through with that, then something's not going to happen, or
Yeah.
something will happen.
And and what James just referred to right now was a part in the book where Jason talks about he's driving somewhere and he just hears something in his head say, "Hey, stop, pull in, park right here." He does. Turns out to be a record shop. I guess he likes vinyl. That's kind of cool. But he goes in and he's looking, and there's a record right there that I guess he's been trying to find for a long time. Couldn't find it. He was not looking for it that day. He was driving around doing something else, and just something, he just kind of got that. Well, I think I'm looking at it right here. No, he says he actually heard the voice in his head. He pulls in. There's that record, so he buys it, and then he ends up figuring out the spirit that helped him out. And as James just said, the spirit's like, well, hey, you help me out, I help you out. So by him, doing his devotional stuff, prayers, and because again, it's kind of like with a friend, right? You don't maybe necessarily have to talk to him every day, but check in on him here and there and stuff like that. And again, if you promise that you're going to do something for them, regardless of how often you see each other, do that thing that you promised to do. And like with me, I have humans. I have people that I help out with because I'm a graphic designer. I have some people that I help out with. I'll do some from free flyers for them for time to time, and because they're easy, it's quick to do. And every now and again, I get a bottle of whiskey in the mail. I don't ask for
That's
that
always
bottle,
nice,
but
right?
but again, I don't ask. I'm not saying, hey man, I'm gonna do, I'm gonna, I'll help you out. You release your radio show once a month. I'll make that flyer for you once a month. But hey man, 6 months in, like, you gotta give me something. That's 6 months of flyers I did for you. I never once said that. It's just, he's a friend. We have a good rapport with each other. I help him out,
So
and then I get stuff in the mail.
you
So-
understand reciprocation.
exactly.
You understand being an adult, and you understand respect.
Exactly.
And I think those are the main things that we took away from this book. But more importantly, just don't be a dick.
Yep.
Right.
And that's, I mean, even in the spirit realm.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say specifically.
Yeah,
too,
specifically
I
because
mean,
some other things
This
can
shit
apply
could
there.
go wrong really fast.
something that
really
you
bad.
weren't expecting.
Yeah. So with that, I think we are done with this review. I have nothing but positive things to say about it. I love the book, and It really, it was really. I look forward to more of his work, and someday I hope to thank him in person because this was really good.
Yeah,
He
this is
did
a
a lot
great
of he did
review.
a lot of work.
It's a
Yeah.
great,
That was a
great
great
review,
read.
great book. I can't wait to purchase an actual copy and add it to my collection of his books.
Yeah, he's
Right on.
the guy's got like 30 years
There's a
under his
ton of
belt
stuff out there.
practicing. He has
Wow.
various courses that he teaches. Again, various paths. So
He has
if
workshop
you're
videos. He's got
yeah,
all kind of stuff. You guys really need to check out
he
Jason
he
Miller.
puts out a thing called Arcane Audio. Again, this is all accessible from his website, strategicsorcery.net. You can also follow him on Instagram. It's again Strategic Sorcery. And then just a quick comment though, we've been talking about this book, and I hope you guys have figured that out. But this is not a beginner's thing. If you don't practice anything, you don't have any. Again, as we're talking, protection and any type of this knowledge established yet. Don't buy this book and start trying to contact
Don't
stuff.
do text to speech.
Yeah,
Don't do,
you
don't
know,
do that, dude.
get started with some things first and get some little bit of foundation established, and then start getting your feet wet. So again, it's not something for beginners.
Right on. So let's close this out. James, you got anything for anyone?
Give a shout out to Jason Miller, man. Thanks for putting out some good work and content that is digestible and beyond amazing information.
Brian.
Thank you to all the listeners. I apologize for my marble mouth tonight. The next time I decide to chime in a little more, than I usually do, I will try to not let that happen. But so yeah, thank you guys for listening, and for those of you, Michael Samu, JBZ, Dreebat, you guys are always in here, and you guys always participate. We really appreciate that. To each and every person out there trying to be a better version of yourself tomorrow than you are today. Keep it up. You're doing great. And to all the brothers out there, Montebello Whittier, Oxnard, Channel Islands, Logia Panamerica,
What up?
Downey, and anyone else, any other brothers listening.
Yes.
Mike, what you got?
You know what, you guys covered it all, but I just want to throw out there, in this whole realm where we are learning and studying and doing all these things, it's good to give thanks to the people who pioneer the way or set a path and offer knowledge. Make sure you take care of those people. Make sure you're grateful to those folks that give you this knowledge, and it doesn't have to be magic. Just in general, just be grateful. Other than that, that's all I got. Everybody, thank you. All our listeners, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. However you're watching this, comment below and let us know what your favorite part of the show was. For questions regarding the show, content ideas, booking inquiries, or just simply just to say hello, visit our contact page at keepersoftheword.net.